to Mission Majjhima. Ajahn.
Ajahn.
So Ajahn, tell us about Majjhima Nikaya 41, the Sāleyyaka Sutta.
So in this sutta, the Buddha is approached by a group of brahmins from Sala, Kosalan village. And these brahmins come and ask, why is it that some people at the breakup of the body after death reappear in hell? And why is it that others at the breakup of the body after death reappear in heaven? A very matter-of-fact question, which the Buddha answers very matter-of-factly in both ways. It says it's because of unrighteous conduct which is not in line with the Dhamma, and conduct which is out of tune leads to rebirth in hell, and conduct which is in line with the Dhamma, which is righteous, conduct which is in tune leads to rebirth in heaven. And then he outlines that. He says that in brief, and then the Sāleyyakans, they ask, what do you mean? Could you please elaborate? And the Buddha then gives what are called the 10 kusala kammapatas, the 10 paths of wholesomeness, 3 of which are wholesomeness and unwholesomeness. The unwholesome lead to hell, and then the wholesome lead to heavenly states. So the 3 with regards to body, 4 with regards to speech, and 3 with regards to mind. The 3 with regards to body are killing, stealing, and sexual misconduct. These lead to hell. The 4 which lead to 4 aspects of speech which lead to hell are lying, harsh speech, talking about people behind their back, and idle chatter. And the 3 mental aspects which lead to hellish states are covetousness, ill will, and wrong view. And the opposites of those lead to heaven, i.e. refraining from killing, refraining from stealing, refraining from sexual misconduct, from lying, from harsh speech, from malicious tale-bearing, from idle chatter, from covetousness, from ill will, and having right view. And the Buddha says that these things lead to heaven. And then he goes and elaborates what is later called rebirth by aspiration. So someone who practices in these wholesome ways, who has this righteous conduct which is in tune, they might wish, may I be reborn amongst brahmins or amongst nobles, even amongst gods of different levels. And the Buddha goes up this hierarchy of the heavenly realms. If one is practicing righteously, in line with the Dhamma, then they can be reborn in that way. So, yeah, very clear sutta about what is righteous conduct and what is unrighteous conduct. So, Ajahn, what did you find interesting about the sutta?
I think the first term to draw out for me is the brahmacharya and samacharya, which charya means sort of conduct, and conduct in line with Dhamma, and harmonious conduct. This word sama means kind of harmony. And in ancient India, out-of-tune intervals were had connotations of evil. And the sense of tuning oneself to the Dharma, to wholesome action, to the proper path is found throughout the sutras. Although this is a different sama than you find in samaditi. That is, it's a different word.
Spelled differently?
Spelled differently. And but the sense of harmonizing I find really meaningful when we don't have a lot of language always in Buddhism for kind of this intuitive sense for how one aligns with Dharma. But I think a musical alignment is a really powerful way of intuiting what it feels like when you do align with a dharmic path, with what's meaningful, when you walk in line with Dhamma. So this term Dhammacharya, Samacharya, I find important to come back to and to really make much of as we progress and sort of develop an ear for hearing what the dharmic path is through a situation. And then the Buddha gives us the key to tune ourselves to, basically, these 10 kusala kammapata, roots of wholesome action. And he does speak about the abstention from the unwholesome aspects, but then it's really important to note how he talks about the kind of wholesome movement once you abstain. So not only does one refrain from killing, but then one also abides compassionate for the welfare of all beings. And Venerable Thupten Chodron, the abbess of Sarvasti Abbey, speaks about how with Sila, she won't just keep virtue. She'll try to act in such a way that she's always inclining the mind towards virtue. And for me, that's significant because it means instead of just not killing the ant, you try to incline your heart towards compassion in that act as much as possible. You're gentle as you pick up the ant and place it outside on a bush instead of just throwing it. And for me, the extra language the Buddha places at the ends of each of these prohibitions is an important pointer to the quality of heart we want to constantly be cultivating those restraints, that restraint in the context of. And the other thing I would point out is pisuna vacha, divisive speech. And this is sometimes translated as slander, but slander has connotations of lying, whereas divisive speech can just be saying something that's true, that you overheard or about another person with the intent to kind of divide. And I think this is the great Achilles heel of so many practitioners is gossip. And to notice, not only the Buddha's encouragement to refrain from that, but also to say that one rejoices in concord, speaks word conducive of concord. So it's tempting, you step back from gossip, but it's kind of fun to be near someone who's gossiping for you. You're not getting your own hands dirty, but you're getting all the benefits of hearing all the juicy details. And I think there's a place in practice where you take the Buddha seriously in this encouragement, and actually can you sort of counter, can you put a counter position to what the other person's putting out, saying, actually, this person has a lot of lovely qualities. Like, can you actually wade into those waters a little bit and speak words conducive of concord and not just completely go along with the flow of gossip, even in silence? What else would you bring out, Ajahn?
So we find in this sutta these pericope, these stock phrases, definitions of each of these very important terms, basically the 5 precepts extended. So we've got the 10 paths of wholesomeness or of unwholesomeness. And usually at monasteries, we, in the Thai tradition, we chant the 5 precepts. People will take those on. So refraining from killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, which are the same here as the first 3, and then lying and refraining from intoxicants. And that 4th one of lying, sometimes at some monasteries, like I believe at Bhavana Society, they actually will establish the 3 aspects of refraining from harmfulness of body and the 4 aspects of refraining from harmfulness of speech. So every morning undertaking not just refraining from killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, but also from lying, from harsh speech, from malicious speech, and from idle chatter, which is a good training because we do so much karma by speech. Maybe just drawing out some of the implications of non-harsh speech. One speaks words which are soothing to the ear, affectionate, that go to the heart, that are polite, appealing, and pleasing to people at large. A nice acronym for those positive ones is gentler. So one speaks words which are guiltless, don't lead to guilt, which are euphonious, i.e. literally pleasing to the ears, which are nurturing, which are touching of the heart, literally going to the heart, lovingly polite, which are endearing and which are reputable. So gentler. And it's good to pay attention to these because oftentimes when you speak, if you feel some kind of pang of regret, of guilt at what you said, it's not because you lied. It's perhaps because you spoke harshly. In that one of the aspects of harsh speech is that one speaks words bordering on anger, koda samanta. And it's not that the exact literal words that we said are bad, but it's that the tone was bad. We were being passive aggressive. And did we speak words which go to the heart, hadayangama? Or are we speaking words which are polite, which are bahujana sukhaya, words which are pleasing to the many? Yeah, these are just interesting aspects to pay attention to. Yeah, and anything else to draw out, Ajahn, for you?
Just briefly, that aspect of wrong view. I don't think the Buddha is saying if anyone holds a sliver of wrong view, they're bound for hell necessarily. Each of these, I think the Buddha is saying these are causes for rebirth in these various places, and you can look at that in your daily lives if you keep these precepts. Your mind state is also heavenly or hellish. But he's saying these are conditions for kind of each of those types of rebirth. Although he also says in other suttas that one's rebirth is dependent on many, many factors. So just to say it's not a cut and dry kind of decision if one holds any sliver of wrong view or these other things. But that what the Buddha points out often with wrong view and right view is the efficacy of karma. If you go through the 10 aspects of right view, which we've done and will do again, they have to do with really essentially my actions matter and I take them seriously as conditioners of my future. And I think that's why it's singled out as so significant, is that if you don't believe that deep down, then things can get very messy very fast. Ajahn, what's the word of the week?
The word of the week is charika. Charika, from the root char, which means to move, to go about. Same as charya, or conduct. And charika is, in Sri Lanka, the word that they use for what we call in Thailand, tudong. So at the beginning of this sutta, and the beginning of the next, and beginning of many, we see the Buddha and his entourage walking on charika, walking on walkabout, on a pilgrimage, for lack of a better word.
Which is how we first became super brothers.
That's true. Charika.
Charika
Walking
together.
together in California.
Ajahn.